All right, looks like we're live. I'm just going to give a second here and make sure that we're good to go on Facebook. You must be like at a coffee shop.
Yeah, well, boba, because the coffee shop was a little too packed.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It's the second best thing.
Okay, we are good to go on Facebook. Awesome. Okay, we will go ahead and get started. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our Westy Live Business Edition. My name is Jamie Chattas. I'm the President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And every Wednesday, we bring to you a live broadcast featuring one of our newest chamber members to introduce them and give them a chance to talk to you about their business. So if you are new to the broadcast, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. I encourage you to like and follow if you're on Facebook, like and follow this page so that you will receive notifications for when we go live in the future. If you are on YouTube, you can hit subscribe and then you can explore all of our previous broadcasts there as well. There's a bunch. We also offer broadcasts on Mondays that are dedicated to city updates from city councilors, mayor pro tem, mayor, and other city staff and officials. And those broadcasts offer a chance for you to hear what's going on down at City Hall. So we hope that you will tune in for those as well. And then we are also going to be getting back to on Fridays, offering county updates featuring our Jefferson County Commissioners and Adams County Commissioners. So stay tuned to be informed on broader county matters there. As you watch the broadcast this morning, we encourage you to engage with us, drop your comments, ask any questions, or simply just say hello in the comment section, and we will get to those during the interview. And so now I'd like to offer a warm welcome to Ayushi Patel, owner of Transamerica Financial Advisors, and hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. If not, feel free to correct me on there. But welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks, Dave. Thanks for being here. We'll get some other people that hop on too. But good morning. I'm just going to hand it over to you right away, and you can tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business and your background, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So again, my name's Ayushi with Transamerica Financial Advisors. Basically, we help with everything from like 401ks, IRAs, mutual funds, annuities, 529 plans, literally the whole spectrum. One thing that I do also like to mention about us is we are, like, Transamerica handles all the marketing and like the back end stuff for me, but we are a broker dealer, meaning that we do partner with multiple carriers offering multiple products. So some of the partners are Voya Financial, Prudential, Nationwide, Fidelity, and so forth. And so with the reason why I chose Transamerica to kind of work with and partner with to build my business off of was because of that aspect. I just wanted to have access to multiple companies to make sure that my clients had that I had the opportunity and products for my clients to find the best product that fit them best. And the other thing is the way that we were taught and, mentored was we always like to lead with education and teach people how money works. That is like one of the 7 steps that we include. The first one's always education. We want to make sure that people understand how investments work, how money works, making sure that they're in a financial situation like where they can start investing and putting money away. That doesn't really affect their normal day-to-day life. And I do also offer complimentary financial analysis. I know that some people have, a perspective, I can't think of the word, have like this idea in the back of their mind, like, oh, whenever I meet with a financial advisor, they're always charging fees, I might not be able to afford it and so forth. And so I don't charge any consultation fees. I always do it for free. And so that way, anyone, even if they're working their way towards becoming to a place where they want to invest, I want to, be able to offer my services to anyone and everyone, basically. I also don't require a minimum asset requirement, which I know some advisors do. So I feel like that's the other thing that people are scared to reach out to financial advisors about, is because hey, if I don't have enough money, they might not even work with me. So with those two rules that I put in place for myself, I will help anyone and everyone and hopefully work towards eradicating financial illiteracy. So
Yeah. And I don't think you mentioned how long you've been doing this or what your background is.
yeah, so I've been doing this for about 2 years now, so still fairly new. I still like go to my mentors for help and backup and ideas. Um, I graduated back in 2020 from CU Boulder with a landscape architecture degree, so nowhere close to this. And I met my
So
partner.
you were gonna do like landscape design. What was your goal there?
Yeah, so well, I changed my major quite a bit in college, and I was just like, let's just stick to this. We'll finish it out, and I'll deal with life and see what happens, and I'll figure it out. So this is me figuring it out.
Got it.
But it was just, 2020 was terrible. I wasn't going to get a job in landscape architecture or anything to do with my degree. And so I actually started in property and casualty insurance with Allstate, and then kind of had the corporate world job for like 2.5 years. And I spoke with a lot of clients in like their 60s, 70s who would call in to push back payments and were still working 2 jobs. And, that's when I kind of realized not everyone had the same relationship with money that I did and didn't have like a family that backed them until they were on their feet and ready to go. And so, they just lived paycheck to paycheck, and Social Security didn't pay enough. So then they were still working jobs at 70. And I was like, that's a terrible situation to be in. And I knew my financial advisor at that point, and he was like, you know what, we're bringing on new agents. If you're interested, I'd love to show you what we do. And I was like, I love this. I get to help everyone. Like, I get to change lives. Like, I was sold.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you work with primarily individuals or families, or do you also work with businesses?
So we can work with businesses. So far, most of my clients have just been individuals and working on their individual development. We do have products that are catered to business owners as well. I just haven't ran into that clientele yet.
Okay, well, some of the questions that I kind of want to ask are more geared toward businesses just because that's our audience, but we can talk about, the personal aspect of it too. So we'll just kind of get into that. But I'm curious about like one financial mistake that you see, and we can talk about a small business, maybe a solopreneur, or even just an individual. One financial mistake that you see people make most often and how they can avoid that.
Yeah. So I guess not really mistakes, but just things that I've seen, because everyone's situation is so different. For a lot of for everyone, I feel like all the things like everyone says is like, man, I wish I started earlier. And so there is a book, and I meant to bring it, but it's like a How Money Works book, and it goes over like compound interest, like someone starting at 18 investing $50 and what they would have at 65 versus someone starting at like 40 and investing $200 and what they would have at 65. And usually the 18-year-old who started earlier with a much smaller amount still earns the people who started later. So I think it just kind of also goes back to people who are kind of waiting, like, oh, I want to wait until I have enough assets to talk to a financial advisor. And so then they just keep waiting. They're, making money mistakes. Like they're so fearful of being either charged a fee or being judged for not having X amount of assets by X amount of age, that, it's just, they just wait too long.
Yeah, I see that happen a lot too. If you're one of those people that waited too long, what's your best approach? Say you get to an age, you realize you didn't plan ahead well enough. What do you do at that point?
Yeah, so usually at that point, I'll show them different options. One of two options is, one, you can either start living a little bit more frugal and start being more aggressive with your funding. Or two, let's say you wanted to retire at 60, you might retire at like 65 or 67. So it's like, and based on that, it's like, it's your choice. Do you want to start sacrificing some things now and just fund it aggressively? Or are you okay with just, still living life and maybe work a couple years longer?
Cool. Awesome. And so for a business owner, if you could focus on one financial habit this year, what would you recommend?
For myself or for just people in general?
Just your advice for people. Yeah.
Yeah. So for business owners, I would say, obviously, if you have if you've been in business long enough, you know how much you're putting in for like employees, stuff and like all that stuff, versus how much your net income ends up being through your business. I always tell people, and it applies to me as well. It's like I would take some of that money and reinvest it in your business, because there are probably some things that you're just kind of cruising along on, but it's like if you do take the money and invest it in something, just not even in like an investment, just in your business, your income's going to grow substantially, and then you'll have more money to invest.
Awesome. Yeah. What do you think that's kind of a common misunderstanding about the work that you do?
I think the most common misunderstanding is, again, that, you know, I feel like, and there are some bad advisors out there, as there are in any industry. I think a lot of people have just either gotten burned, or, if their advisor upped their minimum assets, then they get fired. And then they're like, you know what, no one wants to work with me. So I think it's just everyone thinks that advisors aren't good people, but it's just they haven't met the right people.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody about financial advisors today, and just kind of the misconceptions I think that people have about them. And I can't even remember what that conversation was, but it's very timely given that
Yeah.
I'm interviewing, so I'm going to try to pull from that as well.
Yeah.
You have met probably a lot of different clients at different stages in their life.
Yeah.
And maybe you've got like a really inspiring financial turnaround story that you could tell us, without names, of course, but
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I have like a major turnaround story, but again, like there's some things that we always lead with education, and so there's some financial investment strategies that we like to show people, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that that's how it worked, that's how it gets taxed and stuff like that. So I think just like the education aspect of it has turned a lot of people's like mindset about like, oh, investing, like there are other options out there rather than just your 401k. Other than that, I feel like it takes a while, like 2 years, like even my first client, 2 years is not sufficient to see like a massive growth or something in their life. But I do hope, because along with investments, I do also have my life license, and I do life insurance. And so I have helped a couple of clients who have like health issues that run through their family, and so we have life insurance with living benefits. And so I'm like, hopefully you don't have to ever use it, but I'm glad that you have the coverage. God forbid that something does happen to you, you can pull from the death benefit while you're alive to pay for medical bills.
can you explain that? Because I think a lot of people don't even realize that can be an option, that you've got life insurance with living benefits. And can you explain what that is?
Yeah. So life insurance back in the day was just life insurance. You die, your family gets the money. They have evolved life insurance to where they do allow living benefits. So living benefits include chronic, critical, or terminal illnesses. So if you go to the doctor, they're like, hey, you have cancer. Let's say you have a $250,000 life insurance policy. Depending on the carrier, you would just call in and be like, hey, my doctor diagnosed me for cancer. I'm going to have to undergo chemo and whatnot. My medical bills are going to be $1,000, like $100,000. And so the carrier would just be like, okay, send us the documentation. They would send over the doctor's note proving that obviously they do have the cancer, and they would literally just send them a check for the amount to help.
Yeah, that's got to be super helpful for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah,
go ahead, sorry.
You just never know. That's my thing. It's like, you just never know.
Yeah, definitely. What other trends do you see coming in the financial world that business owners or just individuals should be paying attention to?
Well, it gets a little complicated because there are a lot more new funds. I know people are very, I guess, familiar with like the S&P 500. It's just it's just everywhere, even online and, Instagram and everything. There are some new funds that are coming up, and there's always new funds that are going to pop up and new companies that go public and stuff. And that's also why you need an advisor, because there are some funds that you're able to access by yourself and some accounts that you're able to access by yourself. But as an advisor, we just have access to so many more. So, like, for example, I have a client who had a 529 plan with Fidelity, but Fidelity doesn't have a Colorado specific plan, so they weren't able to get the write-offs for the contributions they were making. So then they went to College Invest, but they're like, we get the write-offs, but the gains were so much better with Fidelity. And so now I'm putting them into a 529 plan that we offer that is Colorado based, but we have over 20 different funds that are going to perform as well as Fidelity did. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, but they don't have access to it.
Got it. Very cool. So. And if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about how people plan financially, what would you do? What would you change? What would you wave your wand at?
Well, I would I really love working with young families because it's like you can start investing for your kids early enough. And I think that's where the change kind of has to be, which I know not all parents can afford to invest for their kids and stuff. But it's like, if you start investing for them whenever they're like 2 years old, and then just invest till they're 18, let it grow, they could have close to $1 million by the time they're 65.
Yeah.
It's like time is the most valuable thing whenever you're thinking about investing. So if everyone would just, and I know that's not going to be possible, but if everyone just invested like $50 for their kids ever since they were like born into like a mutual fund or like an IRA, which that gets a little tricky, but just any investment accounts, just $50 a month, maybe put a little bit during like birthday months and stuff, Christmas gifts into there, and stop at 18, and then whenever they grow and get it at 65, they're going to be well set regardless of what they did in their life.
Yeah, that is great advice for sure.
And that would solve all the problems.
Yeah, for sure. Just kind of building that generational wealth. And I know that's people talk about that. It's a huge goal that I think a lot of people have. And it's difficult to do if you don't really know how to do it. And so I assume that's something that you focus on a lot with your younger families.
Yeah. I know some families, they're like, my kids will take care of themselves. But like the ones that are like, hey, I want to focus on my kids, I'm like, fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's start now. $50, something small.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's always been a concern of mine. My kids are 5 and 7. And so from the moment they were born, this is something that I've been thinking about, because I see, and who knows what they're going to do with their life. They might go to trade school. They might take over my business. Who knows? But if they do go the 4-year, the traditional 4-year route to school, who knows how much that's going to cost? Like,
yeah,
already outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my daughter Quinn, she's got spina bifida, and so she's disabled, which doesn't really impact us too much, really. But that was something that from the beginning I've thought too, is I'd need to build this into her life so she never has to worry about it. And so I know parents have different reasons for focusing on different things, and so just really important. So it's good work.
Yeah. There are some plans for disabled kids as well, where it's kind of like a trust where you're just funding it, and that will automatically pay them for any healthcare, any care needed, like a nurse or something later down the road.
Yeah.
Because I do have another family friend actually whose daughter, I believe, has a disability, and she's just like, I'm not worried about the son. The son will grow up, he's fine, he does well in school. But the daughter, they're like, if we die, we want to make sure that there's enough money for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
To be there and take care of them. Absolutely. So it's definitely something that worries a lot of parents.
Yeah. Do you ever get any really unusual financial goals from clients? Like they come to you with something and you're like, that one surprises me.
Not necessarily goals, but just something that I'm like, people really don't understand the concept of like how money works in time and compound interest. Because I've had people, one person that always comes to mind when people ask that, because she's 30, she has a house that she's paying towards. So I'm like, great, you got one investment, but she doesn't have anything else. She loves to travel. She makes good money, like $100K. and she wants to retire at 50 with 100K a year. And I'm like, you make 100K. You also want 100K, which is reasonable. But I'm like, you're giving me 20 years to provide for about 30 to 35.
Yeah.
I'm like, unless you invested all of your money into an index and let it grow, then yeah. So that's when I gave her the option. I'm like, you're either going to have to sacrifice some things now, or you're going to retire closer to like 60.
Yeah, 50 that's a ambitious goal for retirement,
Like,
especially if you're starting from
you
scratch.
gotta earn more money or invest more, or you're going to retire later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One thing that I think, and maybe you can talk about this, I'm not really sure if this is something that you've worked with, but as a business owner, if you've got kids, you're able to hire your children and then pay them. I think it's like $10,000. Well, whatever you want, but $10,000 a year can be tax free, right? Is that?
Yeah. So
how does that work?
Yeah. So you need an LLC because you need a company that your child works for, which you work with an estate attorney. I don't do that. And then basically you can pay your child as much as you want, but people usually stop at the lowest tax bracket, which I think is 12,000 right now, just so you're in the smallest tax bracket possible before taxes start applying. And then you can put that money either in a Roth IRA or in another 529 plan or something for the kid.
Yeah, and then it's tax free, and then they can draw from it when they're 18, or how does that work?
So the 529 plan is specific to education. So higher education, you can also use it for high school, for textbooks. Whenever you get into college, you can use it for tuition. Boarding gets kind of iffy depending on where you live, but it's education based only. Roth IRA does limit your age to 59 and a half. You can touch the money that you contributed before 59 and a half. It's just the gains that you can touch till 59 and a half. And there are some first-time home buyer and one or two other exceptions as well for Roth.
Okay, thank you. I've always wondered about that.
Yeah, like there are some ways around it.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, it looks like Dave's got a question. Have you ever had anyone look at instruments to keep pets cared for? As a single person, no kid, a concern is what would happen to Lincoln if I passed on. Like, if you haven't met Lincoln, that's Dave's baby, his little Cocker Spaniel. So yeah, he's thinking about Lincoln right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same about my pup Willow. She's going to be living the life. So usually what you can do with that is you would need like a trust, and you can list your dog as a beneficiary. I've heard of it. I haven't done it. But basically all of your assets would go into that trust. You would have a custodian that takes care of that trust and would use all the money to like house the dog or, buy the dog its own house, pay for its food, care, upkeep, everything else. So you can do that.
Got it. All right. Thanks for the question, Dave. Very cool. All right. So as knowing what you do, if you were to win the lottery tomorrow, this is just kind of a fun question. If you were to win the lottery tomorrow, what's the first thing that you would buy or do?
So depends. How big is the lottery?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. I don't follow the lottery, but I think it's like millions of dollars.
Million. It's like 100 million, 200 million. So first of all, the government would take half of that. So let's go with 100 million. My thing would be, I do have a rental and then the home that I live in now. I would keep the rental because it's at 3.5%. Interest rates are never going down that low ever again. Don't refinance if you have that. I would probably pay down the home that I have now, probably buy my dream home in cash, but keep it small, because the reason why people go broke whenever they win the lottery is because they buy a massive 14,000 square foot house that needs upkeep for like the outside landscaping, the water, the electricity, the heating, like the having people come in and clean it. Like, that's tens of thousands of dollars of really expenses that don't even affect you. And then taxes, home insurance, like there's so much that goes into it. Like a medium-sized house, maybe like $750, somewhere in that range, 2 to 3 bedrooms, because you can always upgrade. That's also the other thing. If you have kids, you can always upgrade. Don't buy a massive house and hope that you have kids. And then, yeah, I would put it in a couple of different things. There's some certain annuities that will pay you a lifetime, even if your initial investment runs out. So I was like, I'd probably put a couple million in there, have some residual income regardless. My car is paid off. I mean, I'm just travel after that.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like exactly what I would do, except for save a bunch for my kids.
I was like, pay off the homes, get some rental income coming, pay off my home, got no.
Try to build some passive income somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. And still minimum fees.
Yeah.
And then I have something that's going to pay me a fixed amount regardless of what the market does. Like,
yeah.
That's it.
Awesome. And do you have any books or podcasts that you think that people that are watching, that are business owners or they're running businesses, would really benefit from and should check out?
So there's quite a bit. I have a whole list of what I want to read, but I mean, if you haven't read like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, that one's definitely, it just teaches you how to talk to people and how people react. Along with that, a book that I really also love that I'd read recently that I talked about at the book club is Surrounded by Idiots.
We're going to have to get to this because you've mentioned it a few times.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not someone who like, I'm very empathetic. Like if I see people crying, I will start crying. I will watch movies and just start crying.
Yeah. Same, me too.
But I'm the person that I am based on those 4 quadrants. I'm very direct and I'm just like, let's get to the point. Like I'm not a human emotions. Like I'm not your therapist. Like don't come to me. But yeah, reading that book, it helps you understand like how you can read people and, categorize what they probably are and how they respond things. And, that's just how they do it. And you're just going to have to let them.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
It's like, you're not going to change them. You're just going to have to learn to live with it.
Yeah. Well, we have just a couple minutes left. Do you have anything about your business? I'm going to link your website actually in the chat so people know how to find you. But is there anything else that you would like to tell us?
No, I mean, if anyone wants to meet up, again, I don't charge fees. If you guys want to even pick my brain about investments and stuff, I'm more than happy to. Like, I can go on for hours.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to link this in our chat so that people know how to get a hold of you. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your insights and helping us better understand, financial strategy and how that can truly empower the individual and the family and businesses. And to all of our chamber community, whether this is your, if you're just starting out or if you're planning, your next big move, it's a good reminder to have the right financial partner. It can make all the difference. So feel free to reach out to Ayusha and learn more about Transamerica Financial Advisors. And thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, until next time, everybody, have a good Wednesday and have a good rest of your week.
Yep. Take care.
Thanks.